Hi guys, welcome back to episode 5 of What Not to Do. I'm Eric Lloyd with Oregon Risk Management Solutions. We're here with another few video clips of workplace mishaps, accidents, little injuries, close calls, learning opportunities, funny moments to laugh at together. We're going to break these clips down, go through what we see, learn a little bit, have some fun. With that, let's go into our first clip, which is titled, City Workers in China Accidentally Ignite Sewer Vapors. This Can't Be Good. Let's see what happens. Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, they did. That was scary enough when the first little plume went up, and then it lays out the whole street. Oh my gosh. Wow. Everybody's walking away from it at least, so that's a good thing. There's another angle of it. Wow. The dude on the motorcycle got a little surprised there, though. So, what not to do? Let's say the first thing not to do is to be doing hot work, what we'd call any work that would produce flame, sparks, cutting, torching, welding, grinding, that kind of thing in an environment that might have a fuel source. If we think about our fire science triangle of, heat, fuel, and oxygen, we combine those three together at the proper ratio, or improper in this case, and we're going to have a fire, we're potentially going to have an explosion. So it's hard to tell exactly what kind of work they were doing there, but obviously they were doing some kind of that. Again, cutting, torching, welding, grinding, something producing flames or sparks, and probably in like a sewer line that might have been filled with methane gas, things like that. And that was enough to ignite it. So anytime we're going to be doing any of that hot work, we need to be thinking about our environment. Maybe we need to ventilate the area or isolate the source of the fumes and protect any interactions that could trigger that explosion. Another real basic principle of hot work is anytime we're going to be doing that kind of work, want to make sure we have some good fire suppression available as well. Would have loved to see a fire extinguisher there if they knew they were going to be doing that. Hopefully, after an incident like that, either the workers themselves, maybe a supervisor, maybe bystanders are then going to go into emergency response mode, start looking at, hey, who got hurt? How can we triage that? Who can we render first aid to? Do we need to call first responders? Their day just got a lot more complicated with some extra responsibilities here. So that's a good one, Dakota. Okay, now we're ready for our second clip for this episode. Looks like we got another theme coming together. Curious worker sets warehouse ablaze, testing foam's flammability. That's not going to be good. So we got rolls of like foam sheets over here, it looks like, and he's just wondering what happens. Oh my gosh, and he's finding out. Man, that's going up in a hurry. That whole stack just immediately ablaze. That's crazy. Yeah, a lot of those foams, plastics, around here, like the poly sacks that we might get fertilizer in or store seed in, things like that. A lot of those plastic-based sheets and containers can be really flammable in a big way and can go up in a hurry if exposed to, again, those sources of heat. Back to that fire triangle of heat and fuel right there. So we definitely want to be thinking about, if we're going to be doing hot work, sure, let's not go up to random things in our workplace and set them on fire and see what happens. But if that ignition had been accidental versus somewhat intentional in this case, or negligent at least, that's where our hot work policies really come into play. And we want to make sure that if we're going to be doing any of that work, producing those sources of heat, got a good standoff distance from anything that could potentially be flammable, like those plastics, like those foams. Good rule of thumb is 30 feet apart from any hot work to anything flammable we're going to be doing, and making sure we got that fire suppression in there. I suppose ever so slightly in his defense, he did have the good sense to say, that's a really big fire and I'm going to get out of here. How come he wasn't wearing a shirt though? That's kind of weird. All right, clip number 3. We've got beam installation fail, accident, scaffolding, and skyjack. All right, let's see what happens here. We're up in the air, got that PPE, we're high vis, we got a hard hat. Somebody's working on some scaffolding. Somebody's using a scissor lift. That looks like a heavy beam. I feel like this is going to be no good. They're trying to get it moved around in place. It's starting to swing. Oh no. Oh, it's taking out his scaffolding. Dang. And then it hits the Aerial lift too. Wow. He did a good job hanging on to the scaffolding at least and riding it over as best as he could. You know, in that circumstance, he was within the regulations. He had railings around the top of the scaffolding there. And so he wasn't required to have additional fall protection in that case. It looks to me like as far as preventing the fall itself, he was largely doing what he needed to do. So as the cargo starts to shift, you can see, yeah, it's a forklift that is moving this great big heavy beam into place and way high up in the air like that. The center of gravity is just terrible, and the forklift proceeds to tip all the way forward. I'm thinking that we did not follow the rule of use enough forklift for the job, and it wasn't up to the task of moving that much weight that high up in the air. That's what ended up shifting it forward here. As we advance into the video a little more, there's, at least as the forklift lands, there's nobody in it. And I'm thinking what that's probably telling us is that the operator for the forklift jumped out as it started to tip. That's people's instinct sometimes, and I've encountered people that have successfully done that. That is definitely against best practices when it comes to tipping forklifts. If it becomes unstable and starts to fall, please don't try and jump out of it. We're so much more stable if we're just wearing our seatbelt. We grab that steering wheel and just ride it over and land with it. As long as we're inside our roll cage, we're usually going to be safe. But if the cargo or the forklift were to shift in a different way as we're jumping out, pretty good chance that it lands on top of us and we end up way worse than we would have been. So stay inside those forklifts if they start to go over on you. Okay, we've got one more clip for this episode. Mason factory steel coil accident. We talked about steel coils a couple episodes ago. We know those are crazy heavy and there's a lot to go wrong. Oh gosh, so he's walking by and one of the coils falls on him. He's moving around. Everybody's coming to help him, but they know that's a bad thing, right? When we've got those entrapment situations, those crush situations, our instinct might be to try and just immediately get that person extracted out of it, right? Sometimes that can be about the worst thing we can do for them. Anytime we teach first aid classes, first aid and CPR, we always teach that the first thing you do before we do anything else in an emergency situation requiring first aid is what? We stop and assess the scene. We assess it for our own safety. Can I even stand here safely and try and help this person? Is there something we need to move or stop or shut off or change before we do that? Do we need to just call 911 from a distance? And that's definitely, the first thing we need to do here is, hey, why did this just fall? Something hitting it? Is there another one that's unstable that could land on us? Once we've assessed that scene, man, if we've got somebody pinned like that, getting on the phone with 911, getting the professionals coming is going to be a really critical next step. Because if we just immediately try and start picking that thing up, moving that person, who knows what new injuries we could make or what we could potentially be doing to exacerbate the existing situation. So in those entrapment or pinned under something situations, as best as we can, we're going to just stabilize that person, try and maintain scene safety, and get the professionals coming. I'd love to plug our first aid kits, but that's one that's probably beyond anything that a layperson could try and render aid with. So it's a good one. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up episode 5 of What Not to Do. Again, if you're enjoying these, like, subscribe, follow us, share them around on your different social media platforms. We really appreciate that positive feedback. If you guys see any of these clips that you want us to feature on here, send them over to us. We always appreciate that as well. Check out our website, OregonRMS.com. We'll see you next time.